Hi, this is Nathan. Welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Hi there, I'm Dylan James Weaver, but you can call me Dylan. My friends and I are about to set off for a time of humor and analysis. Want to come along? We'd love to have you join us for today's Wad Fam Chalk Pod. Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And this week we are joined by a very good friend of both mine and Andrew's.
Hannah Woodruff.
Look at that!
Yay! It's Hannah! Sorry.
Glad to be here.
Oh, we are very excited to have you. So we're here for our annual Christmas episode. Finishing off guest season and the 2021 year as a whole. And we're talking about the Living Nativity. It's episode 214, and it's an episode.
What a doozy.
Does have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
The requirements of an episode. So, Hannah, can you just, from a high level, fill us in on any history or context you have with the show, and assuming there is none, what your experience was when I threw this episode at you?
Sure. Okay, so initially when you were telling me about Adventures in Odyssey, like way back, beginning of the pod, I thought you were talking about Homer's Odyssey. So very different stories going on here, but my experience with this one was interesting. Dylan knows that I have very strong opinions, so this will be definitely an interesting turnaround. But I mean, I thought it was pretty easy to follow. I was a little bit worried jumping in, having no experience whatsoever. But they said everyone's names multiple times, which is very helpful for me. And yeah, no, I thought it was overall pretty enjoyable, nice and sweet. Short. Yeah, short.
There you go.
Very short attention spans here.
Had you had any previous, interaction with like an audio-driven story in that way?
Do audiobooks count?
I mean, they do to an extent.
Okay, so
I mean, especially like the ones that are more produced, and like occasionally you get ones where it's like, hey, we've got multiple voice actors or whatever.
Yeah, dramatized audiobooks I think are top
gosh,
notch.
There's one, I think it's on YouTube somewhere. It's Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
and when they walk through
yes.
Lothlorien, they have all the like cricket sounds. And it's like,
yeah, no.
Very immersive. Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite parts of it for sure. It's like hearing doors close and like people singing like through walls and stuff. It's
yeah. That we do love the sound design of this show.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Props to whoever did that.
Yeah.
Sir John Campbell. Who did it?
John Campbell's the composer. This particular episode engineered by Bob Luttrell.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you.
So, yeah. Written by Marshall Younger. It's his first credited episode on the show. He goes on to be like one of like the mainstay staff writers.
Wow.
But this is his start.
What an interesting way to come in.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's directed by a friend of the show, Phil Lawler.
These names mean nothing to me, but I'm enjoying the reactions.
We have a long-standing grudge with Phil Lawler.
Oh, great.
And yeah,
Phil.
He is a man of strong
Philip.
opinions as well.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
We've exchanged blows verbally.
Oh. Okay.
I can send you the audio.
He came
clip.
after Dylan's mom, so Dylan just had to go.
What?
That's
not what happened.
Okay.
Oh man.
Dang. What a fandom.
There was a horse head that showed up in Dylan's bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a note with like cut out magazine letters.
Blood.
Why'd you cut this out of magazine letters and then sign your name at the bottom?
That's a good Phil Lawler joke. I would apologize, but I won't.
And then the other thing I want to address off the top is that this episode, according to the complete guide, this is Phil Lawler writing here. The controversial nature of this story launched an hour-long debate among our actors about the First Amendment and the true meaning of the separation of church and state. While the discussion was healthy, it sure ate up a lot of studio time.
Oh boy.
I mean, how healthy was it? I mean, if everybody's on the same page, I don't know that makes it healthy.
I get the feeling that everyone's not on the same page, otherwise it wouldn't be a debate.
Fair, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah. I mean, we can... Little do you know, that's the catchphrase of the show.
Yeah.
Whose catchphrase? Dylan's?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
I think I'm usually the one who says it.
I feel like Andrew would just
Andrew.
get into it.
Yeah, no, I just kind of trip and fall into it. And wake up in it.
All right, and we don't actually have a promo this week due to some technical issues with the AIO wiki. I should have played like Christmas music or something to do the transition here. I can add that in post. All right, and now
And now,
the discussion of the episode.
the Living Nativity. Oh boy.
Yeah. So we start out with some intrigue music and a bunch of rowdy kids vandalizing something while being sinister. And it's, we cut to Wit's End where they're all torn up because kids have destroyed the nativity scene at Town Hall.
Do you actually say nativity?
I do.
Oh, interesting.
It's a problem, and we can't get into it. I
No,
feel like we
no.
did this.
Every
this,
year.
like every time it comes up. I think the popsicle kid was we had a big debate. It's fine. I say it wrong. Let's move on.
Like nativity?
Yeah, he
Yes.
says nativity.
As opposed to nativity.
Like Bart Rathbone.
Yes, probably because of Bart
Bart
Rathbone. Who knows? But I do unfortunately say nativity,
Say
and
it
we're just gonna have
uniquely.
to move on.
He has other redeeming qualities.
Look, guys,
please.
don't tweet me about this. I appreciate your interaction, but this is too far. I'm flawed.
I can't change my phonics.
So yeah, there's an ensuing conversation between Whit and Lucy primarily, but Connie and Eugene are also there, and Lucy is really torn up about the destruction of the nativity, and it's a bit much, but I am like, okay, I do get that like level of like nostalgia where it's like, oh yes, this thing that has always been part of my life and I'm just used to seeing is now gone. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I think the drama of like who would go so far as to destroy a nativity scene.
I don't know. I could see the kind of being upset. I'm like, why would somebody do that? But yeah, she does kind of go over the top and say, Christmas won't be the same. like the world is falling, the sky is falling, the world is falling apart.
Both.
Yes.
Yeah. The other big note I have for this scene is just a reminder for the entirety of this episode that Eugene is, at this point in the show, not a Christian.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that why he plays the donkey?
Yeah. He wasn't allowed to be Joseph.
I think it's
Elect only. I'm sorry.
I think it's very funny, like the degree to which his investment is in this whole thing. When it's like, I mean, I think it's sweet, and I'm like into it, but at the same time, I'm like,
Wait a minute.
did like Marshall Younger coming into this fresh, like, forget one of your key character components is that you don't actually believe this stuff? Nor did you grow up with it. So it's like,
I would have appreciated some more like anecdotes about how bad his Christmas was.
So how is he involved with the church group in the first place?
Because he works at Wits End.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was hired because he like super smart, was pretty high up at a college, despite being super young, and then Whit, the old man, noticed his talents and offered him employment at Wits End, and then he became Christian.
Okay.
Eventually.
15 years later.
Just automatically you have to convert when you sign the W-2.
I mean, not far off. But no, Wits End goes out of its way to employ non-Christians because they need someone to evangelize to.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, and they've got to have somebody to traumatize with VR, you know, like...
Yeah. There's a whole crux where Eugene gets sent into like a hell simulation.
Oh.
It's
Wow.
It's in the list of episodes that I never want to cover.
And I want to cover too much.
Ooh, that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah. Eugene also establishes that the manger scene or whatever is often called a creche.
Fun little history lesson. I tried to look it up and couldn't find anything on it. Like, I must
Is
have
it
been
not a
spelling
word?
creche wrong, but I don't know.
Okay. Resident linguist Hannah Woodruff doesn't know what a creche is, so Eugene is too smart. Or Marshall Younger is just making up words.
That sounds more likely.
So yeah, then Lucy suggests, hey, we could just build our own. And Whit's like, what if we do one better and we make a living nativity?
Dun, dun, dun.
Drama.
And that's
Let's
that's
stick a
the
bunch
crux
of
of the
people
episode.
outside in December in Illinois. This will go over great.
Yeah, this is
Too
not
committed.
well, like it's not like I know this is like a thing that people do. Mm-hmm. It's not a thing I've ever like witnessed. Like I feel like in my area of the world, this is just not a thing, or maybe I'm just too young to have experienced it. But
I want to say like some older churches, I think, have done like drive-through live nativity type things in my peripheral, but I've never been to one.
It seems to only be in like audio dramas and movies, though, as like a plot point. Like we watched one last night where there was a live nativity scene.
Yeah, shout out to The Wise Kids, which is a very good movie that listeners of this show will either love or hate. Depends on how you got to our show. But yeah, it does end with a living nativity.
Mm-hmm.
Very fun. But so good. It's called Wise Kids.
Yeah, The Wise Kids.
Who's in it?
Nobody. It is super indie.
Richard Cohn is the director.
Stephen Cohn.
Stephen Cohn. I don't know why I said Richard. Sorry, riches out there.
My bad. You want to misappropriate your name to a film I enjoy.
Stephen.
Yeah. So is this what we cut to? The Electric Palace. No. Okay.
The next scene is the casting of the scene.
Yes.
Who are we going to get to play all these parts? We've got 4 wise men giving gold, frankincense, myrrh, and a pen and pencil set. A joke that elicits groans from children in the room who are like, this is a bad joke. It's such a like weak /dad joke that's then like lampshaded by Marshall Younger being like, I can get away with a bad joke if we say it's bad in the show.
Yup.
That's not lazy writing.
I mean, it makes me laugh just in
Yeah.
like the badness of it, and it's
Please.
One of the reasons you're supposed to laugh.
yes.
But pen and pencils as a gift are pretty good. Like, I wouldn't be upset if I mean, if I was expecting something much different, then sure, I would be let down. But, like, if somebody showed up with nice pens and pencils.
Yeah, I
It's
feel
kind of
like
like socks.
Yeah.
And like at all the movies, the kids are like, socks. And I'm like, socks!
Socks!
I believe it. You read my mind.
All the times that I don't want to spend money on socks, you've saved me.
oh, yeah. And I mean, a fancy stationery set is still very royal, you know. You got your gold,
Classy.
you got your frankincense, you got your myrrh, and you got like fancy stationery and a fountain pen.
And a wax seal. You can
Yes, just
Put
like they did
the J.
in the old AD.
Uh-huh.
in the old 0 AD.
Yeah.
Or is it 0 BC? We'll never know.
I've had that explained to me like probably 10 times in my life as far as like how the life of Jesus affects the AD and BC scale. No way. I have no clue.
Unclear.
Well, in
There's
the
like
year of our
100
Lord.
years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it refers to AD, but I don't know.
Yes. No, I think Jesus' birth is 0 AD.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
At least not to
Ask
me.
the big man.
Give me a
That'll be our
history
new
lesson
segment.
real fast.
Phone God.
That's my favorite segment in Guilt Trip Jeopardy.
The Daily Double. The Daily Double. The Daily Double.
Is Phone a Friend's not even Jeopardy? I feel like we've done that bit before, and Phone a Friend's not Jeopardy, right? It's a different.
No, it's like,
don't
like
watch
Who
it.
Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
or
Anyways, it
Wheel
doesn't
of
matter.
Smarter
Fortune.
than a fifth grader.
Yeah. Who's smarter?
Regardless.
Yeah.
Eugene is very upset because he has been cast as the ass in the play, and
Have you seen the dump truck he be dragging?
and he has to carry Connie, which is great.
Degrading and
Yeah.
very upsetting. to
Yes,
him,
for his
apparently.
actorial
Yes.
debut.
He's a
His
thespian.
yeah.
It's very funny to me for like Connie and Eugene, but Eugene especially being like these adult-ish characters in the show, like in a play that is overcast. Like they are taking parts away from children.
Yes. Yeah.
Like Connie's like, I cast myself as the main role.
Yeah. That couldn't cause any. I mean. Yeah, I'm just gonna chalk it up to maybe it was a bad casting day. You know, maybe the person.
I don't know. I feel like give
auditioned-
Lucy that.
Yeah, right. It would make the most
There's
sense.
only one role for girls anyways, so
Yeah, and there's just the one in this episode. Connie
Yeah.
doesn't count.
yeah.
So
It's just it's a bizarre choice.
So is Lucy in it, or did she just have the idea for it?
I don't
know.
And she didn't even have the idea for the living one. She
Yeah.
just had the idea for like, oh, we could build one ourselves. And then Wit came up with the actual idea because Wit is the only thing that moves the plot in this episode.
and some, well, I won't say most episodes, but
Yeah, I guess
solid
Bart
30%.
also moves the plot, but you know.
kind of. Bart's more impressive than Wit because he can move the plot just by sitting in his electric palace.
Yeah, but so
He's a
so
kingpin.
so it's Connie and Eugene arguing amongst themselves about this, and then Wit shows up and is like, in like the worst tone of voice ever. Well, I can't imagine that any kind of dispute would come up at Christmas time. And I'm like, who are you and what?
Have you never done anything? Like,
Because I agree, it's dumb that these two adults are arguing over these parts in a play.
yeah.
However, the so strong, holier than thou thing from Wit was very grating.
Well, and especially because I believe he interjects into the conversation by saying, "What are how are you two doing? Or something like that. And like a very condescending, like, all right, now you guys shut up. And I'm going to tell you what's happening. Which, you know, he's their boss. He signs the paycheck. I suppose if they're on the clock, they kind of got to do it. But
it's just, yeah, it's so belittling.
oh, incredibly.
Well, Dylan, didn't you know that no one can have arguments during the month of December because that's un-Christmas-like?
Wow. How's that working out for your family, Hannah?
Not well at all.
Yeah. Just gonna.
Yeah.
Plus my.
Yeah. So yeah, we then jump to Rodney beating his dad at checkers.
Which, it seems to be some sort of like street checkers where rules are. I don't know how close to orthodoxy this checkers is. But yeah, Rodney is poning his dad because the Electric Palace is empty, and it has been empty all day.
Yes, so yeah, Bart Rathbun owns this appliance store in Odyssey, and he's a sleazy businessman, and this is, the slowest night of the year, and they're just playing checkers, and Bart keeps saying, like, Rodney, I think you're cheating, and he's yelling at him he's like, you're definitely cheating, and then Rodney's like, yeah, I'm cheating, and he's like, never tell anyone you're cheating.
Yeah. I told you to never tell anybody when you're cheating.
I mean, funny exchange. Bart is like good comedy, even if he is always like a straw man.
Oh yeah, no, he's funny. I don't know. I mean, they're not great jokes, but they do land.
Yeah.
And the ever present motif of "Don't call me Pop."
Yeah. Which merch idea: Bart brand soda, but it's Pop. Bart's Pop.
All right.
Michaela, your time. The bat signal is out.
Oh, man.
Whatever creative licensing you want.
Look, if you want side income, make merch for our show, and we will share it out.
Make you an affiliate.
Yeah.
It's like being an affiliate to a lemonade stand.
Does it offset our business costs? Absolutely not. But we do have fun.
Exactly.
Which, speaking of which, as this episode airs, it's like the last week that you can buy the Wad Fam Chalk Pod Christmas sweater, available in red and green. I love it so much.
Very cute.
And if you want to confuse friends and family at holiday parties, there's no better way than with the Wad Fam Chalk Pod Christmas sweater.
You want to have to explain the same thing 10 times within the span of 3 hours? You buy that sweater. You'll look good. You'll feel good. You will probably get a sore throat, though. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, and in any Christmas dispute, you can say, "Hey guys,
I'm
this isn't
on Focus's
Christmas
side.
like." Yeah. What's going on here?
All right, now that we've gotten an ad out of the way mid-episode, Bart sends his son over to spy on the competition.
Yup. Except for he won't say that he's spying. He's like, "Oh, so you want me to spy?" And he's like, "No, I just want you to go over there and check it out." And he's like, "You want me to spy?" And he's like, "Nah, you're just going over there to see what's going on." And he's like, "But you want me to spy?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want you to spy."
Here, put on this, like, what is it, a wig and a cane?
And
a mustache.
And a mustache.
Oh, I presume that was natural.
And a fake voice.
Yeah.
Wow, someone put him in this nativity scene.
Yeah.
Like, he's got the costume.
Well, I mean, that's literally what Mr. King jokes about. He's like, "Are you coming over from the nativity scene,
right,
Rodney?"
that's right.
So yeah, Rodney walks into King's Appliance Cave. I've never wanted to buy an appliance from a place that's a cave. That just seems backwards.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would want to buy from a cave. Maybe like animal skins.
Yeah, fossils.
There's a beer cave across from the Tanger outlets, but it doesn't look like the kind of like it looks like the sketchiest alcohol dispensary possible.
Well,
Just moonshine.
Yeah, pretty much.
In
Prison wine.
Yeah.
oh, man.
And Pabst Blue Ribbon.
The moonshine of beers.
Amen.
So there's, I guess, kind of the crux of this is our good old buddy capitalism. There's the Living Nativity scene is right across from King's Appliance, and there's so many people going out in droves to see this nativity in the small town that they're just wandering into King's Appliance store and buying stuff there instead of going to the Electric Palace, and that can't stand.
Not for a single day.
So Bart calls the mayor. Get him to sort this one out.
Yep. Argues, that this it's just like, it's that thing that I called out earlier, but like of just Bart being like the complete straw man. It's him. It's like the only reason someone would possibly care about a nativity scene on city property if it was hurting their business.
Yeah, precisely. That's the
the only person this could offend is some greedy scumbag.
And he's not a Christian.
No.
Okay, that seemed
No,
canonical,
certainly
but I
not.
just wanted to confirm.
No.
couldn't be anybody else
No.
Yeah.
interested in the historical accuracy of Jesus.
Nope. We've gotta do this. And so a dandy old Officer Orion shows up at the nativity scene to break it up.
Yeah,
He's shutting it down, and he doesn't feel good about it.
but he does have an accent, a very thick accent.
Oh, yes.
And that I do feel good about.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm gonna miss. Obviously, we're gonna miss the presence of Will Ryan on the show, but like, not just in playing Eugene, but also in playing Officer Orion.
Yeah.
And Harlow Doyle, and all those myriad of other weird voices the man could do.
Oh.
This Christmas, we're sad about the death of Will Ryan.
That's true.
Aw.
The voice of Eugene just died. Did Dylan tell you?
Oh, no.
Yeah, like,
That's
I mean, a month ago as this episode's coming out, but yeah, this is the first one we've covered with him in it since it happened, and I was like, yeah, I do miss like him pulling double duty and playing the Irish cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
No. He was really talented.
Who I can only assume's first name is not Officer, but is William.
It must be.
Because his last name is O'Ryan.
Yeah.
It's thinly veiled.
So Bart gets it shut down on the grounds of separation of church and state, essentially. You can't have, Christian religious events on government property, which is fair, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and then you have that lovely exchange, I guess where Lucy and everyone are reacting to the shutdown, and they're saying, it's not up to us. Some things are bigger than our feelings. And I guess some people are offended by Christianity. It was like, yeah, that's the problem.
Yep.
Not that, like, no one else's faith is being represented here, and
Yeah.
that's
That
the
couldn't be
problem.
that.
Yeah,
No.
couldn't be that.
No, they're just so mad because of how right we are.
I know.
They're just
so
infuriated.
self-righteous.
Yeah. About our self-righteousness.
Yes.
And the great thing that comes from this is Whit going to the mayor's house,
Yeah. What?
knocking
Like,
on his door.
Boundaries.
The mayor opens the door and is like, "Oh, hi, Whit." And I'm like, okay, whatever. I guess the mayor knows Whit by name. That's like, fine. He's like elder statesman of this town. He's the stand-in for God. We can let that be, whatever. But then Lucy, Connie, and Eugene walk in, and the mayor knows their names too?
He's a regular at Wit's End.
This is... They want this town to be so small and so big at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like the mayor knows everyone's name, and also, like, cutting-edge computer stuff is developed here, and spies are here, and there's a counterfeiting ring that's based out of this town. Like, there's so much stuff, but it's like, but the mayor knows everybody by name, including children, college students, like...
Yeah. Could you imagine?
Big brain.
Big brain. He can't forget
Big
a name.
wit.
Big wit.
My word. Yeah.
Big wit.
Yeah.
Lots of names.
Big mayor is watching.
Oh, my word. Well, and important to note that the mayor is voiced by Phil Lawler. Mayor Bill Jenkins, voiced by friend of the pod, Phil Lawler.
Affiliate at large.
At large.
Yeah.
That's the dude y'all have beef with.
Yeah.
I thought
Well, and then they're like, so my okay. My
He
frustration.
keeps, like, sliding into his Dale Jacobs voice, but not quite.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely
It's
I
like-
noticed that as well.
You can tell the man is not a voice actor and is trying to do a second voice.
Yeah.
And this one goes on a little too long. He's fine when he's got like 2 lines, but when he's got to hold like multiple conversations, bit of a
be
stretch
done.
for the man.
Yeah.
But, I respect the effort.
Yeah, well, this is early on in the show. They
Yeah.
don't have as much money or things.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, my frustration is basically Wit and everybody responding with just yelling louder about the nativity. So they, like they said, they already, they show up and they try to make it, something that can work. But, like, because it was taken away from them in the first place, their response is not to reconsider anything. It is just to yell louder.
yes.
Yeah. This is they're just like yelling back and forth. It's this big debate about, separation of church and state. I was just like, why is Eugene so passionate in this scene? I don't understand that writing. And then, and this is where that line of like, the Constitution is bigger than my feelings or yours.
Yeah. That line.
Yeah. And Wit mansplaining the government to everybody at Wit's End and being like, well, the way that they're reading the Constitution doesn't look so good for us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. One
Victim
thing's for
complex.
sure. The way they're reading the Constitution these days, it doesn't look good for us. Who's us, Wit?
Who's us?
Define your terms,
The white
please.
Christians? They seem to have been doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Socioeconomically, they're pretty much on top.
I love war on Christmas narratives.
Oh, yes. I had to write an essay on that in high school, actually.
From what perspective?
Well, like, you could choose, like, whether or not, to argue that there's a war on Christmas. I chose that there's not a war on Christmas because there's not. But you
Spoiler alert.
couldn't state things in the negative, so you had to, like, I think my thesis was like, the war on Christmas is as fictional as Santa Claus and his host of flying reindeers, or something like that, because you couldn't say there is no war on Christmas. It was the whole thing.
Fire.
There's some tea.
But
There's some charisma, some angst baked into that 10th grade report.
Oh, man. Yeah. The other thing that good old Mayor Bill lets it slip that Bart is the one who complained.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
That's not allowed.
everyone
You can't do that.
Everyone
Oh my gosh.
is like just dunking on Bart, including Wit.
Yeah.
Who's like, I'm holier than thou, but also let me get in my sweet burn
Yep.
about.
yeah.
about Bart never having read any laws.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah. I doubt that Bart has read the Constitution.
Yeah.
Nobody's read the Constitution, wait.
Not under their own volition.
Hey,
without
every
being a
morning
law.
with his devotions, he
Yeah,
reads
yeah.
the law and then the law.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Like one of those finance bros that get up every morning and read the
Oh my
Constitution so they can do day trading on
Yeah.
Robinhood.
Yeah. I'm sure I rubbed shoulders with some of them on my way to work.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a lot of obviously, my biggest frustration with just this entire episode is how Wit is like, oh yes, they're interpreting this the wrong way.
Oh, that, yeah.
And it's like
Yes.
with no second thought to his own interpretation.
You want me to read some of the stuff he says here?
Please.
Because he
Oh,
talks
yeah, I wrote
about
some.
he does a lesson on why the First Amendment exists, and then explains that its true meaning has been forgotten and replaced with this dumb notion of separation of church and state. Quote, they're trying to separate the state from God, and one day they're going to find out that when you remove God from something, it's headed for destruction.
So
Because that's why our nation's headed for destruction.
yeah. Well, and the only way that a nation can be anything productive is if God's at the head. God can't be at the head? I don't know. I mean, but yeah.
We've seen time and time again why, like, the muddling of, like, when the church gains political power, this is not good for the church or for the politics. Like,
Yeah.
that is, like, if there is one lesson throughout history,
Yeah.
that's pretty high on my list.
Very, very carefully curated history lesson going on here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
Well,
very-
and I love that, like, the idea that the United States was founded because the church and the state were one, and it was a problem.
well, yeah, one of
Like,
many. Yeah.
that is, like, one of the reasons people settled America was for religious freedom.
Yeah.
But here we're talking about, well, no, the Constitution doesn't actually say that the church and state need to be separate. That's not the purpose of the First Amendment. Also, wild for a Christmas episode of a Christian radio drama to be giving a lesson on the Constitution.
Also, maybe just take a little bit of that, like, contextual mindfulness and just apply it to your scripture reading.
Like, there's
Just try it out. Try it on for size, reading it in its original context and interpreting it based on...
I don't know when this is going to be relevant, so I'll just say it now. I
Go
did
for
do
it.
a little bit of research
please.
on constitutional law because I got really heated.
Yes, I also did. But I'm
excellent.
excited to hear what you found.
Yeah, so, as we were just talking about, well, the separation of church and state isn't, he was right. I think he says it's not actually baked into the Constitution. That came years later, and I think it's most famously used in a letter written by Thomas Jefferson.
Correct. Who
And
wrote the Constitution?
who did, yeah, thank you. Yeah, let me just put that one
But
out there.
also, I would like to point out that letter, written in like 1802, it's not as though this is a recent issue. Even I don't want to step on your toes here, but even the court case that is like most often cited is from the 40s.
Yep.
And this episode aired in 92. They've been grinding that axe for
Yeah.
nearly 50 years at this point.
Yeah. Well, and even, Thomas Jefferson
real
and
sharp.
James Madison were both huge proponents of there being separation between church and state, obviously, because, the whole thing with the Anglican Church, trying to organize, centralize religion and, create all these mandates. Yeah, it was an issue. And that's why you have the Pilgrims and the Puritans and the Quakers and,
God, I love the Quakers.
God, the Quakers. It's an interesting chapter of our history for sure. Yeah, but here, hold on one second. I'm like reading my notes real fast because I put it in two different spots. Fleeing religious persecution. And then, did you look into the Lemon Test, Dylan?
A little bit.
Okay. So essentially can you look up if it's a Supreme Court case? I think
It is a Supreme
Okay,
Court
I
case.
thought
Yep.
so because it said the court and I was like,
Yes.
hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 1971, Lemon v. Kurtzman, the court developed this test to deal with the religious establishment clause. So basically they said that anything a government entity does, any statute must have secular legislative purposes, and neither advance nor inhibit religion, and must not foster an excessive government entanglement with religion. You're gonna have fun sorting that one out.
That's fine.
Excessive entanglement.
Excessive entanglement with religion. So yeah, and then there's the endorsement test, which basically tests to see whether or not any given action either approves or disapproves of a certain religion in the community's eyes. So there's so much. I don't know what court case you were specifically referring to.
No, I like I said, I just did enough reading to be like, okay, let me just like get a little bit of the history of like what this stuff comes from and what the like, yeah, just because this has been probably in part because of this episode, but I feel like this like whole separation of church and state thing or whatever was like championed so hard through like my growing up years as well, where it's like this I feel like isn't anymore. I never hear about this because conservatives have moved on to other things, but this was one of like the tent poles. It was like, as far as like Christian political worldview, it was like, we don't like gays, no abortion, and church and state should not be separate.
Right.
Like,
well, yeah.
those used
We
to be
should
like
make our children pray
the
for their
pillars.
school
Yeah.
lunches.
But but it's like, yeah, and now it's like I don't know, yeah.
Well, yeah, well, even now, like it's almost this tacit agreement to like be a Christian if you're going to serve in office. There's all the presidents, they swear on the Bible. Yeah. They, are espoused to be very religious. There was that whole thing with Obama and, his middle name and the faith that he practices. And that was a huge sore point that Christian conservatives ran wild with. So, yeah, it's still very much there that it should be a part of it, even though it's technically it shouldn't be, but you should be if you're a real Christian. Right,
well, and it makes sense because then they went out of their way to, elect the most Christian man on the planet Earth, as we all agree.
Yes.
Donald J. Trump. A guy who everyone has, for his entire career, looked at and went, that is a model Christian.
Yeah,
That is a
has only
respectable
ever
man.
uplifted everyone of every ethnicity, every gender, every,
Notoriously helps poor people.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Never fires anybody.
Yeah, such a good Christian man that...
I can't even deal with it.
It's just like, well, it's, yeah.
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 We got it.
2016 to 2020 was a bit of a fever dream.
Still waking up from it.
Yeah.
The thing I would also like to point out which is wild. One, like, yeah, this episode like goes out of its way to have like, these lessons on the Constitution. Aside from like bits that we overhear from the Nativity itself, there is like no Bible referenced in this episode.
No, it's not that Christmassy.
No, oh yeah, it's not very Christmassy. For what it's worth, this was the December 12th episode. They did a more Christmassy episode the 2 weeks. More Christmassy episodes the 2 weeks after this. Okay. So this was just a kind of December episode more than like the Christmas episode of the show.
Though it's episode.
Yeah, though it's included on like Christmas albums and stuff, so it counts for sure. But the the complete guide lists like whatever the scripture reference is for a specific
for
thing.
a moral? Oh no.
So even though there is none in this episode, the scripture reference that they are using is the first 7 verses of Romans 13.
Oh my god.
Which is the passage that is submitting to government authorities.
Yeah.
Which is a weird choice, in my opinion, but Because that's the passage that says, like, whoever rebels against authority, against the, like, government authority, is rebelling against what God has instituted. And I'm like, I think that their argument is that the legislators are rebelling against the Constitution that God instituted, I think is the mental gymnastics they're doing there. But I would read that passage as the people who are interpreting the Constitution are government authorities over you, and maybe submit to that.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
It almost seems like they're trying to say, look, like draw the parallel or like make the connection. It's like, oh, they're supposed to be the same, one and the same, or something like that.
It's
too.
Just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're going for with this passage. Honestly, I think this passage just highlights that there isn't a good biblical argument for the combination of church and state.
Yeah.
I would argue that the Bible pretty comfortably argues the opposite, if nothing else, by the clean example of Jesus arriving on a donkey, not as a king who's going to conquer Rome for Israel.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that highlights pretty clearly that, like, Christianity is not meant to be, like, a political state weapon, but rather, like, a belief system.
Who would have thunk? That's ridiculous. Get out of here with that logic.
It just... Yeah. This episode... real rough.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it plays on the because Christians have been able to do pretty much whatever they wanted for a good amount of time. If there is any challenge to that, it is a specific attack on their faith specifically, and therefore, they haven't stepped out of the limelight. They have been, like, kind of, pushed into a vat of sharks or something. Like, they're trying to get rid of it.
Look, if we are not the dominant force, why do we exist? Mm-hmm. That's us not being us not being the dominant. us not being in charge here means that we're being persecuted.
Yep.
That's what persecution means.
It's certainly not privileged. It couldn't be that one.
Yep.
Hey, I mean, as somebody that was raised Christian, I didn't ask for it. It wasn't something that I seized for myself, that privilege. But, you just be aware of it. Check your baggage at the door.
Yeah, and it's, that we could get into, that's a whole other thing. Like, just, it's not, privilege isn't something that you have to defend. It's, you acknowledge it. It's not an insult. Yeah. Us acknowledging our privilege isn't saying that your life isn't hard. Mm-hmm. It's saying that these things, your life wasn't made more difficult because of these things.
Yeah, you just had different circumstances that affected you. And there are destructive systems in place, such as these, represented by Focus on the Family, that cause significant damage to even privileged populations.
Yeah. I don't want to steal your thunder, but should we talk about how they've sort of rebranded or found that loophole?
Yeah.
So this is triggered by Connie then complaining about department stores put up, like, Santas. Why don't we get to have a nativity?
Because Santa's in the Bible.
Right. And, like, I think she's arguing differently. Yeah. But, like, the thing that Whit then points out is, like, we, like, that's their own shop. Like, we could do it here. And I'm like, great, Whit, do it there. Yes. Your building is connected to a park. Like, this is the perfect place.
You're infinitely wealthy
to have.
Yeah.
This is, like, a great place for you to have it. And it's just, but he's like, but they're like, no, but, like, it's always been in the center of town, so we can't have it here in a park. And so,
that that would diminish Christmas. It's like, yeah, they like dig their heels in more, like rather than A, have it on private property,
Right.
or B, get a permit to do it in the park, or, you know,
Right.
whatever
Yep.
this town would require.
Right.
They just dig their heels in
They're
more,
like, no,
which is
it's not.
infuriating.
It's not true Christmas unless this
Right?
one thing is happening at the town hall.
Well, and that's like, I wrote down what they said. It's like, people need this. It just wouldn't be Christmas without it.
Right.
Which, okay, you were just on your high and mighty soapbox about how, you know, that's not what Christmas is about, or like what the true meaning of Christmas. It's about the nativity scene being
It's
in
like
City
wait,
Hall.
wait. I'm sorry. Are we making the nativity scene an idol? Is that what's happening
Yes.
here, guys?
Oh, yeah. Bible, the nativity scene.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was so frustrating.
Those fancy cups that the Pope takes communion out of.
Yeah. So
They then march back to Mayor Bill's house.
They're really getting
Or
their
I guess
steps in.
Poor Mayor
just
Bill.
Wit
Yeah.
does. Just Wit does, and Bill is frustrated by this whole thing. He's like, I've been getting calls constantly, get people mad about it, but you know, like I can't do this. You know, like the Constitution's pretty clear here, and so like, you know, my hands are tied, and then with kind of like off screen pitches an option, and Bill's like, you know what, I'm in. Like, that sounds great as long as you let me narrate one night.
That's
right.
not yucky.
Yeah.
Me, Mayor Bill Jenkins, also very clearly a Christian. We
Yes.
must keep this established.
Yes, and we must make it very clear that my religious affiliation is affecting my political decision making. Ooh.
oh boy.
And
Yeah,
Those
just
any
I
devils.
loved the subtle rebranding of the nativity scene to be a cultural display.
Yes.
Yeah.
Full of white people in the exact same costumes.
In America.
Right.
That this is our cultural heritage.
So like it's a weird thing because their solution here is like Wit gathers everyone up to go down to City Hall, and Eugene's like, "Oh, are we gonna go protest? I would have brought my grass stained jeans." And I was like, "What is this joke? I don't like it. It feels wrong. I don't get it."
was wrong.
Joke about hippies
I was
having grass stained jeans
yeah.
because they sit in the grass.
Or I don't know, maybe he's planning to do a rock star slide
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
lawn of City Hall.
But it's like my jeans need to be pre-grass stained. I don't know.
Did not land.
No, it really didn't work. But they get down there,
Maybe
and
those
now
are his work jeans, and he doesn't want to get his dress jeans ruined with any potential.
Well, he has to have separation between work and protest.
Yeah, fair, precisely.
so he doesn't believe in some separation, just not all. But like they get
That's why
so
he
they get
wears
down
kilts.
there and Lucy. And Lucy's like, you set it up again, they're just going to tear it down. And Wit's like, no, we now have a cultural display. So we're getting around this because in addition to the nativity, we now have a Christmas tree and a menorah. So it's legal.
Diversity.
Look, this is the thing. This is the problem with this episode. Is like, I don't entirely hate this as a premise.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool that he's like, okay, how can we still do this within the constraints we've been given? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, if we represent other religions, we're fine. Weird that it is just a menorah and a Christmas tree, which is like,
Not a religion.
which is, I guess, it's very, like Christmas trees. It's called a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
But it's secular, John.
Right, exactly. So, also, no Santa. Bummed about that. I think they could have had a Santa, and that would have been fun.
right.
Once again, still very, like, Christian associated. But,
yeah.
like, it is that weird thing where it's like, Christmas is very much a secular holiday, despite it having, like, a root in the church, also having a root in, like, you know, pagan solstice stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But like yeah, it does have that weird thing where it's like every time like Christians are getting like up in arms about like, we got to like reclaim Christmas and whatever. I'm just like, dude, Christmas can be for everyone. Like, get out of here. Like,
It wasn't ours in the first place.
right. Like, there's no data to support that was when Christ was born.
No,
like,
wasn't it like I was gonna say I thought the likelihood like Jesus was most likely born in like June or something like that because of with the stars and everything.
that's
Yeah, it was like when the wise men came.
Yeah.
Is like I guess where they're marking.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
but
think I've
it's
heard that.
yeah, it's just like there's no backing. It was put there because it lined up with the winter solstice, and that appealed to
Yeah.
like people who had like solstice celebrations who they were trying to convert, and like cool with all that. Like I'm like, can we acknowledge that like Christmas is not this like pure thing, but it can still be meaningful to Christians, and I think that there's like a value to having like a holiday, but it's weird when it like gets like overly like deified,
Deified.
where it gets like overly deified and is like made out to be this like extremely like holy religious thing, when I'm like, it wasn't like the church fathers celebrated Jewish holidays.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like,
Jesus was Jewish.
yep. He's one of 2 people listed on the Adventures in Odyssey wiki as being Jewish.
Wait, which one's the other one?
A rabbi in an episode that we might cover someday with Andrew Taven.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, just the frustration here of both going like, hey, like it is great to be like, hey, what if we like represent a bunch of different cultures here? The problem is that they're doing it.
Yes,
well, they
the motivation.
didn't. Also, small town, there's probably not that many religions to represent.
Yeah.
Make of that whatever you will. But this is like rural Midwest in the early 90s. So
Not a lot
Quite.
of demand for
Yes.
Kwanzaa decorations there.
yeah. But the struggle then of like, but we're all doing this as like a backdoor loophole gotcha. Like it's like, this is a way to make things legal even for those who would misinterpret the Constitution. And then it goes like this gross step further, which is like, perhaps other cities would be interested in this solution. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Hey, you listening at home, you should make Christmas displays as multicultural displays. Like, this is like a weird call to action in a way this show never does.
No. Yeah, I don't
And
like
just
it.
feels extra gross.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you're right to kind of hone in on the motivation aspect of it though, because it's not, they're not acknowledging the problem that, okay, so the problem is that it's just Christmas and they're promoting Christmas and that it's promoting it as a religious holiday and not including others. And so their motivation to have the cultural display is not so that others are included. It's so that they can just hold on to what they have.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't
which is
a way...
the frustrating part. It's not to be inclusive
No, it's not to show love to others in the
No.
community.
or to acknowledge other faiths.
Right, it's to undercut what happened, like what was taken away from them. And part of that, like, it's part of the straw man of this episode being Bart, where it's like, there's a direction the episode could go if they had someone legitimate raise concerns, feel underrepresented,
Yes.
and then like you could do the Christian move and show love to these people by letting them be represented. But instead, the only reason this is happening is because some guy is upset that he's not getting business and just wants to cause trouble, and so we can feel justified that we won in the war against this guy.
Yes, and like his concerns were they're purely selfish.
Right.
Yeah.
It just affects one person in his business, so it's very frustrating.
Yeah, which also funny because I imagine the writers of this show are very pro small business, and small businesses having Christian rights and all of that nonsense. But in this instance, the small business is going against us, so we're going to undercut them.
Yeah, it's almost like Christian capitalism is a bit of an oxymoron.
Yeah. Crazy.
Could have thought that. You've been reading the Beatitudes, haven't you? Who said you could do that?
Oh, yeah. And then we go over to Bart, who still doesn't have any customers and is sad.
And is losing at checkers.
Yeah, and there are carolers at City Hall, and he's like, I'm gonna shut this thing down again. Even though I would like to point out, they are singing, like, secular Christian songs in the background. It's like Deck the Halls or whatever. Like, it's not... Yeah.
Oh, come, Emmanuel.
Well, they're not doing
banger.
that.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're not.
Right, yeah. Like, it's like explicitly like we're doing Jingle Bells and Deck the Halls and like the ones that are like...
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no happy holidays.
Right.
Just Merry Christmas.
Just Merry Christmas. Well, we wish you a happy holidays doesn't work, does it? The joke is that it's the same syllables and it totally works. So
Thank you for explaining the joke, Dylan.
it's actually not the same syllables, but you know, we could make it work,
works.
guys. Maybe that's how we go out this episode and singing.
I love, I want Dylan to explain syllables to me
All right.
as an English major.
It's fine. This is all getting cut. Look, if it makes me look bad, we cut it because I edit these episodes.
Now, holidays is 5, Merry Christmas is 4.
Down with the man.
Merry Christmas.
We wish you a season's greetings.
There it is.
So, yeah. So then Bart's like, I'm gonna like shut this thing. I'm gonna get right on the phone and shut this down again. And he calls up the mayor, and the mayor's office is like, oh yeah, actually the mayor's out of his office participating. They found a loophole. Whatever. Go to bed, Bart.
Yeah.
And then Rodney's like, see if I ever vote for him. If I ever register to vote.
Delinquent alert.
Great time to mention, if you're not registered to vote, why?
Please register.
Just get on it, man. It's not that hard.
Register
I did it
to vote.
Snapchat one time.
And then vote.
Yeah.
Vote, and please vote to keep church and state separated.
I mean, honestly, considering the demographics that listen to this podcast, I don't care what you vote. Just vote.
Yeah,
just
vote.
show up. And show up on the not popular days, too, because those old ladies deserve to be appreciated.
Yes. Please give them all of our
Do
thanks.
I think
love
I'm gonna.
those old ladies.
Yeah, they're really nice, and I feel bad that I don't bring them baked goods because
I
I feel like they
know.
would appreciate it,
Yeah.
and they volunteer their time.
Yeah.
Hey,
All right.
happy Merry Season's greetings.
Next
Happy
year.
Happy Merry Season's greetings.
Love it.
With my ginger snaps.
But then Whit walks into the room, not to gloat, but to gloat.
Yep.
And he walks in.
Single-handedly save Bart's business.
Look, Rodney has best joke of the year, which is all the gloats are in the nativity scene.
When'd you come in here to gloat? All the gloats are in the nativities. Next
So
to the
good.
sheep. That is really funny.
That was the
It's-
highlight of the entire episode for me.
very
and
good.
Bart describing separation of church and state as separation of doohickey and whatever it was.
And then maybe this nativity scene is a pretty good idea after all.
Right.
Now that I'm making money.
Yes, right. So Whit
Bart.
buys 6 dozen boxes of lights. This is after a conversation with Bart and Rodney, where he just kind of says to Rodney, like, I guess I'm not going to be able to buy you anything for Christmas this year.
That's
Establishing, once again, secular holiday, because these people are not Christians and are celebrating it. But regardless, then Whit comes in and swoops in and buys 6 dozen boxes of lights for the scene. And Bart...
72 boxes. That's
Big
presuming
flex.
these are small boxes of lights. Like, he's spending at minimum.
Bart says like it's like $1.50 or whatever when he says I'm gonna buy one.
Okay.
Whatever $1.50 times 72 is, like $100. No, 150. My math's
Closer to that.
Yeah.
I was thinking Target prices. I think the cheapest box of lights at Target is like $3.
Yeah, this was 92.
Different times.
Yeah. Price of lights has increased by double.
Inflation.
Why you shouldn't buy 6 dozen boxes of Christmas lights.
Yeah.
72 boxes.
And it'll be plugged into, I assume, City Hall's breaker. So.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Not that I imagine Christmas lights take a ton of energy, but just worth
all the
noting.
name of culture.
But yes, but it does end on the Bart coming around because now it serves him.
Yes.
He can now gain something from this, so it's good.
Yeah.
And then
No issues with this now.
Hark the herald angels sing.
I love the music throughout this. I
No,
love
it's
the
delightful.
sound design throughout this. I hate the messaging of this episode. There's a story to be told here that is like that I would find interesting and compelling and good, and it misses every mark.
Yes, it does.
And then, to hammer it home, Chris's outro goes, God wants to be part of everything in our lives. Sometimes that's hard because there are people who don't want him to be a part of anything, and they work very hard to make sure he isn't. Sometimes we need to fight against the laws that want to take God out of our lives, and sometimes we need to find creative alternatives.
I love the brand Creative Alternatives.
Yeah. I think Stonewall was a pretty creative alternative.
What are the law? Sorry. What are the laws that want to take God out of your life? I'm sorry. That is also like that's separation of church and state the other way.
Yeah, precisely. And also,
taking-
you're the ones that profess that God can never be taken out of your life. The Holy Spirit is deep down inside you.
No, but if we don't have a physical representation of the birth of Christ, it never happened.
I mean, that's
it's okay.
a sound
who wrote
argument
this?
if I've ever heard one.
Chris wrote this ending part.
I don't know who writes the
Okay.
ends.
Well, it's
I
okay
assume-
because they haven't read the Constitution.
Oops. They looked at it. They
yeah,
looked at the back.
Cliff
They were
Notes.
looking for the treasure map.
It's the map that will tell us how to consolidate our power.
Hear me out. Religious nationalism.
Oh,
Always gone over
I
well.
am triggered.
Oh man.
Yeah, give that one a Google.
See what happens.
Just yeah.
Any final notes for this episode? Stuff that you wrote down that we didn't hit on, or points you really feel like you gotta make before we leave here?
Andrew.
I was disappointed. I was very disappointed. I was really looking forward to this Christmas episode, and then I was sad.
I know. We normally do very fun Christmas episodes, but I was like, given the mood of the last few episodes we've put out, and just me being riled up, and then wanting Hannah to come on as a guest, I was like, this will be fun.
Oh yes.
Not the good fun, the bad fun.
It was cathartic, I think, because I mean, living where we do and having, being surrounded by people who believe a little bit differently, I think it was kind of cathartic to sort of sit down with you guys and say, it's actually not an offense to Christmas if someone wishes you a happy Hanukkah, that you should say thank you because they're wishing you a happy day. That's I think the most. I feel better now that we've unpacked it, because I think if I had just sat with this, and I'm glad I listened to it this morning, because I think if I had listened to it like a week ago, I'd be so angry and have no outlet. But I'm glad that I listened to it this morning.
My whole week would have been ruined.
Adventures in Odyssey.
I can't separate Odyssey from my life.
No, I think there were some, I see why you guys do what you do now. Like, I think that this was important to unpack. So
Yeah, important is a strong word, but I'm glad that we did.
Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah, I'm glad that you unpack it.
I think that it's fun. I like talking about God stuff.
Yeah.
Period.
Okay, Andrew, would you like to read your final comment?
Oh, my final note is oof. It is capital O, capital O, capital F.
I just glanced at my notes, or at the official guide, and realized that 2 episodes prior is the one where Eugene experiences hell.
Oh!
Which is even funnier then, that he's just like gung-ho here.
He's a convert.
No,
not yet. No,
he's
still.
Nope, he still holds out after that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they couldn't.
It's almost like that's
interesting.
not an effective conversion strategy.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Also, conversion strategies.
Also, not an effective conversion strategy is just
having a conversion strategy.
Having a conversion strategy in the first place.
Yeah. All right. So, Hannah, is there anything you would like to plug or promote here at the end?
Not for me, but this was fun. So I'm going to be listening to more of the Wad Fam Chalk Pod, and you all should too. I'll plug you guys, my friends.
Oh man. Well,
they're not all winners, so just cherry pick.
Yeah, there you go. Like do Bible verses. Oop.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us.
Having me, guys.
This was a lovely time.
Yeah, I had fun.
Yeah.
I look forward to the Christmas episode every year. 3 years in a row.
This is our fourth Christmas episode.
4. Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that a mistake?
Probably.
No.
And with all that being said, we will be not back next week because this is the last one for the year, but we will see you in 2022 for another episode. Bye, guys.
Happy Hanukkah.
Wad Fam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at WadFamChalkPod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. The Living Nativity was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Sabo, with special guest Hannah Woodruff. It was edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.